Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with our very special guests, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors that make it all possible. We want to thank our good friends from Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more at hometownticketing.com and check with us every other Wednesday for What's Up with Upchurch. Jessica Upchurch from Hometown Ticketing shares some best practices about the platform. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We want to thank Violet Defense for their support of the podcast. You know, Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com and check out exactly what they can do for you and your school. You won't be disappointed. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. I've told you before, we have a Sideline Interactive video score table in our gym, and it is tremendous. You really need to check it out. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see these fantastic products in action. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. You really need to check them out. You also want to check out Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, Wall of Fame by Vital Signs is on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video boards, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, visit vitalsignswalloffame.com or learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Once again, that's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Huddle for their support. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. More than 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, are using Huddle to elevate the performance of their teams and their athletes using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete platform for performance. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's built for every level of play, starting with club and youth programs all the way up through high schools and colleges. And of course, the professional ranks are using Huddle to elevate their level of play. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college and university teams that you're trying to get your kids recruited to. If you want to find out more about exactly what Huddle can do for you and your program, and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to their website at huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect some comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve every aspect of your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also gives you access to the 95% of the players and the parents who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com right now and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466 or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Use their surveys and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to a very special episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our first couple seasons, we did a couple of student panels, and we're back again with another great group of students, this time from Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. I want to give a shout out to their athletic director, Josh Blumenthal, for arranging this. You might remember that name. Josh was a guest of ours on season 1. When he was an assistant athletic director in the great state of Texas. He's moved on to direct the program at Wayland Academy, which I believe is in its 165th year of operation. So quite an undertaking. We're going to find out a little bit more about that, but let's go ahead and welcome our guests today. In no particular order, we have Drew Benson. Drew's a junior. Drew, welcome to the podcast. Okay. Okay, Drew waved. So you'll see that when we play this on YouTube, but we do have audio. We also have Ellie Alpin. Ellie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, it's great to be here.
All right, well, it's great to have you. And we also have Emre Kocer, who's a junior also. Emre, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And Coach Blumenthal, we definitely want to say hi and thank you for setting this whole thing up.
And same back to you, Jake. Glad to be back once again with you.
All right. Yes, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So we're going to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where you grew up, share how you ended up at Wayland Academy and maybe what you're doing right now in your high school career. So we're going to go ladies first. Ellie, why don't you go ahead and start off?
I'm just kidding. All right. So my name's Ellie Alpin. I was born and raised in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. And I don't know, I had the textbook definition of the Beaver Dam Public High School, like family. And I have 7 siblings. We all went to the public school we all went through the public school system, went through the middle school, and 6 of my siblings went to the high school, but I took a different path and went to Weyland. It was actually kind of a fluke thing. My grandma signed me up for this robotics program at Weyland a summer prior to my freshman year in high school. And I absolutely loved the program at Weyland. And my dad was like, oh, hey, why don't you just throw in your name for a 4-year scholarship at Weyland and see what happens? I mean, you don't have to go, but it would be funny to see if you get in or something like that. And I was like, might as well throw my name in, see what happens, and brought me here today. I got the 4-year scholarship. I have been a 4-year senior ever since, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Even though my whole family went through the public school, I feel like I have such a unique and different experience because I've went to Wayland and filled with the culture and diversity, and the academic strength of Wayland really has built my character and made me as a person.
It's so cool to hear those stories. What sports are you involved in right now at Wayland?
So right now I am in volleyball, or I just finished volleyball. I am a swimmer and I play softball. And I've done all 3 of those sports for 4 years as a 4-year varsity for each of those sports.
Outstanding. Josh and I are both big believers in that multi-sport approach in high school. Thanks for sharing. Emre, let's go ahead and hear your story. What brought you to Wayland, and what are you involved in right now?
Okay. So I was born raised in Turkey for 10 years of my life before moving to America in order to expand my brother's basketball abilities. So I moved here as a 10-year-old, and I played basketball my whole life ever since I was a kid, following up my brother. And when I was in 8th grade, I was getting recruited by a lot of different public high schools and going there, going here. But I wanted to follow my brother's path, go to Wayland, get a great education, also while following up with his sports success. And that's kind of how I came here. Yeah.
Okay. And Coach Blumenthal tells me that you are going to be giving lacrosse a try in the spring. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he's been pushing me to give it a try. He's explained how lacrosse works to me quite a lot, and it's quite similar to basketball. There's a lot of similar plays. It's just but I'm gonna give it a try. We'll see how that works out.
Well, best of luck with that. That's got to be exciting. And Drew Benson, let's hear your story. How'd you end up at Weyland, and what are some of the things you're involved with right now?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, sir.
All right, so I was born in Eau Claire, but later I came here to Columbus, and my first year, I went through all the club system. I went through elementary, middle school, and then my high school started, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't really fit in Columbus, so I decided I'm gonna give Wayland a shot, And so I went there my freshman year as a day vet, and then my sophomore year and junior year, I decided I'm gonna board. And now I live there at Weyland, and it's just been fun. Like, I love the sports there, I love the people there, I love the teachers, and I met good friends. So it was awesome.
Okay. I saw in your bio that you also do track and field in the spring. I'm going to guess since you're a cross country runner, you also do the distances. So are you an 800 runner, 3,000 runner? What's your distance in track?
I'm mostly a mile, 2 mile runner. But yeah, and then cross country this year. Although I didn't make the state, I was 6 seconds off. But my good friend Griffin made it, and I'm just gonna keep on working in my senior year. I'm gonna get there.
All right. Well, again, thanks for sharing. And Coach Blumenthal, we don't have time to go into the full bio, but talk a little bit about how what you've done in your career and how you ended up at Weyland, and maybe one or two things that you are excited about for this year.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. I've been able to travel up and down the country at different stops, which has been awesome. And every place has taught me a lot of stuff. The way I ended up at Wayland was had a great time at St. Andrews, but I wanted to be an AD. And this was not only was it an opportunity, but it was the right opportunity. And loving it here, excited for our Silent Night basketball game that we have coming up, and then just excited for the spring. And I don't mean that as a weather joke, just because that'll be, the 1 year mark of my tenure here, and just excited to keep the programs growing strong.
Yeah, I've been able, as you mentioned, we followed each other, and I've been able to follow some of the things you're doing, through social media. So very cool. And I know you got to be excited about the challenge of leading that program. So for our listeners, we are having our third student panel, student athletes from Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. They're joined by their athletic director, Josh Blumenthal. We're going to be back with some more, but let's hear from one of our podcast sponsors. Please stay with us. We want to thank Huddle for their support of the Educational AD podcast. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. More than 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, are using Huddle to elevate the performance of their teams and their athletes using video and analytics. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play. Whether you're a club or youth coach, of course, high schools and colleges are using Huddle, and even pro teams are using Huddle to help their athletes perform at their very best. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches at the colleges and universities that you're trying to get your kids recruited to. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to their website and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Welcome back to our student panel, students from Wayland Academy in Wisconsin. We're going to start with Drew this time. Drew, in the world of athletics, we always talk about the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I'm curious, who have been some of your mentors, people that have helped you along the way? Maybe it's a family member, or maybe it's a teacher or a coach. Any names jump out as helping you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, I would say my dad. My dad's a huge mentor for me. He always pushes me to do better. He always make sure I'm on the right path. And another thing that really pops out is my mom. Like my mom and dad are big people in my life, and they helped me get to where I am today, and I'm grateful for them.
Yeah, I think sometimes we overlook the importance and the impact that our parents have. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Emre, how about you? Who have been some of the mentors that have helped you along the way?
I would say that my brother has been my biggest mentor in my life, leading me through sports, teaching me everything I know. I believe in almost all the sports and athletics, and even educational things that I do. He led an amazing way for me to just follow, and I'm just trying my best to be as good as him.
Yeah, no, that's again very cool. I remember my older brothers. I didn't think it was mentoring at the time, but looking back, they definitely had an impact on me. Ellie, how about you? Who have been some of the mentors in your life so far?
So I think my number one mentor would be my dad, just because my situation as for me personally, being the youngest and having a 5-year gap between my older brother and me, he was always there to just like push me through what I needed to do, and let me follow the path of my siblings, but also find my individual strength and what I could do as a person. So he allowed me to grow and spread my wings, but also follow this strict and strenuous path of athletics and finding yourself as a person.
Oh yeah, I mean they're all so related, but again, I appreciate you sharing that. Very cool to hear. Coach Blumenthal, you got a few more years under your belt than our students today, but who've been some of the people that have helped you? The expression I always like to use is, I still hear those voices in my head. So you still hear any voices?
I hear voices in my head, but I get nervous. I actually have two mentors that come to mind. One of them is actually one of my Jake's former boss, Sean Murphy, who was the head of school at Palmer Trinity where we were, and then subsequently was the head of school at St. Andrews where I came from. And he has been a real guiding light still to this day. And so he's someone that I lean on heavily for advice. The other one, and this is a little bit of a different answer, are my children. They really have taught me a lot. And I say that really not tongue in cheek. I mean, they have taught me so much about life and just things that are important. And without them, I don't know if I would have had that extra sight that I now have. So again, a little bit of a different answer, but I'm going to go with it.
No, I think it's a great answer. I've been able to, see your kids the last couple of years if you post a little bit more on Facebook, and your lovely bride, of course. So I remember those days quite well. My kids are all grown now, or our kids are all grown now. And we just had our first granddaughter 5 months ago. So, we're seeing that end of it too. So very, very cool. They definitely, do have an effect. They do have an impact on us. Once again, for our listeners, this is another one of our student panels. We have student athletes from Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, along with their director of athletics, Mr. Josh Blumenthal. We'll be back with some more, so please stay with us, but we're going to take another quick break and hear from our podcast sponsors. We also want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive. We have a Sideline Interactive video score table in our gym, and it is fantastic. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com, and see exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. I encourage you to reach out. You won't be disappointed. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Students, I'm going to give you an opportunity to, maybe brag a little bit on the way things are done at your school. This section, we talk about best practices. So I'll put you on the spot, maybe just a little bit. Emre, we're going to start with you. What would you consider to be one of the best practices, whether it's organizational or motivational or instructional? What's something that really sticks out for you as kind of a shining star for the athletic department at Weyland? What can you share with us?
Something that is new to Wayland that's come with the help of Coach Blue this year was starting our day with a morning workout. And that has been one of the biggest things that has helped me get my day going. We have our workouts that start at 6 a.m. and go until about 7:30 to get the muscles going, to get the day started. And it's a good practice for me to stay awake throughout the day, and while also getting my workout done in the morning, and then also one after school, which kind of balances things out so my body has time to rest while also improving. So that has been a very good practice that we've had this year.
So the morning workouts was something that was added this year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very cool. I can see how that would really, help stretch out that entire day for a student athlete. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Ellie, let's go to you next. What would you consider to be a best practice of the Wayland athletic department?
So what I think one of the best things that I've ever seen from Wayland, but I've seen a lot of athletics being coached and taught throughout my years of doing athletics, and at Wayland, they really strive to let the players coach each other, where it's not like there's a coach telling you what to do, or there's like these other people that are trying to coach you. It's together as a team, we're coaching each other, because at Wayland, we're not all the best at sports, but there's some of us that are really good. There's some of us that are just learning, which is anywhere, but Wayland allows the people who are better or learning to ask those questions to their peers and to teach others and to be there as a team and form a better team bond than I've seen anywhere. So.
Well, you're absolutely right. Coaches will say that might be one of the most valuable things, or one of the best indicators of team success, is when the student athletes themselves are involved in that process of, teaching and coaching. Absolutely. Very cool. Drew, how about you? What would you consider to be one of the best practices in the Wayland athletic department?
I would say, like, after Coach Blue came, we're not just practicing to practice, we're practicing to get better. And I think that's really good. That's what he's done. He's established the fact that if we're going to get better, we're going to have to practice harder and work harder. And to go with Emre and Ellie, like, we're going to have to help each other, but morning workouts are always there if you want to push yourself even more. So I think Coach Blue's done a good job of that.
Yeah, again, I think you really touched on one of the key areas of athletic success. Coach Blumenthal, this is your first year at Weyland compared to these veteran student athletes. What are some of the best things that you've seen, maybe even something that you've brought in addition to the morning workouts that you can share with our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is, and these three individuals are a microcosm of a bigger picture, but the buy-in has been there. First thing I said on the first day of practice was two things. I said, we're going to show up on time. We're going to end on time. Time is very important to me. And if we're going to practice, we're going to practice to win. And that's just the way it is. So the buy-in has been great. And I think the other thing that's really been exciting to me is that the student fan support has been great. And I don't know if it always was or it wasn't. It doesn't really matter. I can only base it on what I see. And we've got some exciting events coming. We've had some exciting events. And again, so the buy-in has been there from the athlete and from the non-athlete, which is, shows me that we're definitely moving the needle here from an athletic standpoint as student athletes.
Well, I'm going to bet Wayland is very much like most private or independent schools, where you have a very high percentage of your total student body that are involved in athletics. So again, when you get that other, that smaller percentage involved in support, whether it's just as a fan or as a manager, or as a scorekeeper, that's when you really know you've hit a home run with your fans. Great stuff. Okay. I'm going to throw out a bonus question here for our student athletes. What was one of the biggest, let's say, surprises that you've seen or experienced with your new athletic director since he's come on board? Anybody want to share? Okay,
I'll go.
Ellie, why don't you go first?
Sure. What I was it was more of an impressed feeling, but I was so impressed with how serious Coach Blue was about social media and putting Wayland out there, like on the map. My 4 years at Wayland, we never really had this is Wayland Academy and we're here, and Coach Blue really brought that all in with social media, with presenting what Wayland is, getting fans to come, advertising Wayland to different groups like this. And I'm just so impressed with how he ropes that all in together and still is a functioning human. So
No, absolutely. The Big Red Report, very cool. Emre, I think you had your hand up there too. What was something that, surprised you or just really impressed you with Coach Blue?
Kind of similar to Ellie's is how much he communicates with his student athletes and how many emails he sends a day. It can get kind of dangerous, about 50 emails or something in like an hour, but joking, obviously, he's very good at communicating with us, listening to what we have to say rather than just kind of doing his own thing. I'm sure that would be amazing as well, but he listens to everyone and makes sure he acts upon it.
Now, there's a term in the world of athletic directors that you should over communicate. And I'm guessing Coach Blue's done that, very well. For listeners, once again, we have our third student panel, student athletes from Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, along with their athletic director, Mr. Josh Blumenthal. We're going to be back with some more, so please stay with us. Let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video boards, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, visit vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute, call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We're back with our student panel from students from Wayland Academy in Wisconsin. Ellie, we're going to go ahead and start with you on this question. Sports certainly has a toughness aspect to it. The practices, the games, there is a value in teaching and coaching student athletes to be tough. So my question is this: how can a coach find a balance between coaching student athletes to be tough while also being sensitive to and aware of the very real social emotional challenges that a Generation Z kid is going through? Can you help us out with that?
Sure. I'm a big believer in independence and finding out yourself. And if feeling out what is right for you. So I think as a coach, instilling that, hey, you need to do this on your own, and you really need to figure out what you need, what you want, and how I can help you, and instilling that into your athletes and making sure it's a two-way street that, hey, if you're struggling, I am here to help, or if I need help with something, like I know you're always there to take it up and learn from it. And I think just having that compatibility between coach and athlete and giving that athlete independence and finding their own, hey, what works for me? Am I okay doing this or am I not okay doing this, is really crucial into building that toughness, because who better to tell you to work hard or to do better than yourself?
I really like that idea of, you said, fostering that independence, but at the same time, letting them know that as a coach, you're there, if they need help. Very cool. Emre, what's your take on this idea? How can a coach find balance between these two areas of coaching?
Similarly to what Ellie mentioned, I believe that trusting how you feel is very important in this case. Although like an AD's or a coach's job is to make their athletes the best they can be, pushing them too much and not helping their bodies, not helping them mentally, could be something negative that they portray. So I believe that talking and communicating with their players and being like, okay, is this too much? Are we in pain? Are we like not happy with what we're doing? These are really important questions that should be asked to your athletes, communicating and making sure everyone's okay, while also pushing them to their limits.
Again, you mentioned another key area for coaches and ADs is that communication, and that communication implies both ways, listening to your athletes as well as, telling them or encouraging them what to do. Drew, what's your take on this topic? How can a coach or an AD find balance between coaching toughness and also being aware of some of the challenges the student athletes are experiencing?
I think the big thing is like student athletes. So in classes, especially at Wayland, with tough classes we're taking, it might get a little stressful, or like Emma said, we need to communicate. So I think communication is a big part of it, because we can, as a coach, like we as a team can communicate with each other. It's just going to build chemistry. It's just going to build like compassion for each other, and overall, it's going to like create a better atmosphere for the students and the coach and the for AD.
Yeah, again, the communication, the atmosphere, all key aspects for a successful program. Coach Blumenthal, you've heard your student athletes, and you and I have talked about this topic before, but what's your take? How can a coach, or how would you expect your coaches to find a balance between coaching toughness while also being aware of what their student athletes are going through?
I think it's a pretty straightforward answer, Jake. You have 2 ears, 1 mouth. You hear double what you say, and I think that kind of goes in line with what these folks are saying too. Is just have open dialogue and just make sure the communication is there, and open and honest communication. I think that is the vice of some coaches, especially newer coaches that have this mindset that they know everything, and you're certainly being hired because you're an expert in your field, but you don't know everything, and you got to make sure that you're hearing the voices of those that you're trying to mentor, inspire, and most importantly, get the buy-in. And if you lose the buy-in, it doesn't matter. You're going to wind up getting upset, and you're probably going to want to push them to the brink of pain and agony, and then they're going to wind up not liking this sport. So it's a long-winded answer, even though I said it was going to be short, but it all spirals into the bigger picture.
No, it wasn't long-winded at all. And I think you touched, while you were speaking, it reminded me of, those two, or, there's a million, but two coaching cliches. One, talking about student athletes, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And then the other one about, knowing everything, the great John Wooden quote, I finally began to learn when I realized I didn't know everything. And, I can certainly see that one applying to me early in my career. So again, students and coach, thanks so much for sharing. We're going to be back with our athletic director's toolbox segment, which is sponsored by Athletic Surveys. And we're going to ask Josh, and we're also going to ask the student athletes, what tools would they put into a brand new athletic director's toolbox to make sure that they were going to be successful? So again, we'll be right back with the AD's Toolbox, sponsored by Athletic Surveys. We really want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you as an athletic director to collect some comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also gives you access to the 95% of the players and parents who really love your program, and it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes or your parents, you really need to check them out. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone. Well, I want to make sure I thank Coach Blumenthal, Josh, for setting this student panel up. You've done another great job. Students have done a terrific job, sharing their hearts, sharing their minds. I can see why you're so excited to be at Wayland Academy. And students, thanks so much for being on the show. But we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, Josh is certainly an experienced AD, but we'll get to him in just a minute. Students, and Drew, we're going to go with you first. I'm going to ask you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 2 items in their toolbox. So like I said, Drew, we're going to start with you. Drew, what's going to go into Drew Benson's athletic director toolbox?
I think firstly, I would add like enthusiasm, because if you get your students enthused about, hey, we had a big game coming up, like, hey, we need to work hard for this game. We need to, like, it gets the school together, it brings the school together. And then secondly, I would bring like a phone or a computer or like some type of technology like Coach Blue does for communication. So we can communicate and be enthusiastic about everything we do. It'll lead to just a more fun and great space.
Oh, well, again, I can tell you that, both of those tools would find their way into, should find their way into any AD's toolbox. Thanks for sharing. Ellie, what about you? What's going into your toolbox?
The first thing I would put into my toolbox would be humor, because what is life without a little bit of fun and humor? And kudos to Mr. Blumenthal, because he brings a lot of that to everywhere he goes. But I think humor is key to building that relationship between student and athletic director. And humor is something that we all can share, and it's an easy thing to share. So bringing that along would definitely bring you closer to your students. And the second thing I would put in my toolbox would be empathy. I am a big believer in being empathetic and putting myself in other people's shoes. And as an athletic director, I think that's a really, really good trait to have, because you need to feel how your students are feeling. I mean, that's a must. And without that, I don't think, empathy, really needed.
No, you're absolutely right. I think you look at those successful programs across the country, and the leaders of those programs, whether it's a coach, an AD, or head of school, they're going to have that in their toolbox. All right, what's going into your athletic director toolbox?
I would say that Coach Blue has done an amazing job in this, and bringing out social media, kind of echoing what Ellie said previously, but putting out your school into the world and making sure that everyone can hear and see what you guys are, what's happening in your school is, I think, very crucial. And my second thing would be energy, making sure that you have energy to do what you're doing and do it well. Because if you don't have energy, then you're not gonna want to do it, then you're not gonna do a good job of it. So those are my two things.
Oh, again, you guys have just been spot on. I remember when I would be interviewing a coach, I was less concerned about, their playing experience and their X's and O's. I wanted to see a passion for their sport, whatever it was, and a passion to deliver that knowledge, that information to the student athletes that they were going to be coaching. Great stuff. All right, Coach Blumenthal. Okay, you're on the spot. You're our first repeat AD guest, so very high honors indeed. What's going to go in Josh Blumenthal's athletic director toolbox version 2.0?
2.0, I'm going to give you some new answers, but one of them was going to be humor, but Ellie very eloquently said that. Get what I did there? I'm going to say my two things, Jake, which I've now really come full circle with me now that I'm in the AD's chair, is a vision for where you want the program to go. And then also realism too, to know what you can do, what you can't do, and what is actually attainable. And sometimes it's things you don't even realize are attainable. And sometimes you think things are easy and it's not, or vice versa. So vision and realism would be in my toolbox, along with the humor component that Ellie stole from me already.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that at all. All around, great tool suggestions. Josh, this question's for you. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, and I certainly encourage you to do so, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Probably email, as these folks alluded to. I'm on my phone a lot. Just jblumenthal@wayland.org, and then we could set up a time to talk. And anyone that's a friend of the Education AD podcast is a friend of mine, and I mean that sincerely.
Okay, and I know you're also very active on Twitter as well, with a number of posts.
Yeah, we didn't. We touted our social media guys, but we didn't actually give out our handle. So I'll do that so everyone could follow us. It's WA, as in Wayland Academy, Big Red Sports. And the other thing that we have come up with here is a hashtag, and that is Be Red Hot, because we're the Big Red, so we're Be Red Hot.
All right, I love it. Josh Blumenthal, Emre Kocer, Ellie Alpin, and Drew Benson, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and all the best moving forward.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you so much.
For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews are also uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. And we also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more at hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing.